kingdoms past and crowns of ancient keys. I've heard stories of distant lands and realms I long to reach. Your voice, it beckons me to go to worlds unexplored, to leave behind my home and wander.
I've been treading water for some time, picking up the parts of all my life. Didn't get to solve it this time. How am I to break apart? Don't tell me why we can't collide. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel it? On the break of dawn,
gravity pull and it keeps me awake. I would rather be here, lonely in space. I've made up my mind, I just wanna be free. I live my own life in a new galaxy. I wanna be weightless in the silence of the night sky. I wanna free fall into nothing at all. I'm taking the moment, starting all over. I wanna be free and live my own life in a new galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TopHat Lounge for our first podcast episode of Season 2. Also, the first ever live streamed episode, which is, of course, pretty cool. I am your host, Crewman44. We have some amazing guests here this evening to share their thoughts about what has transpired so far this season. Of course, we'll have a little bit of a look ahead as well. If you all could please introduce yourselves, share with us your IGN, what team you're playing for, and what's one goal that you have for this season, either a personal goal or a goal that you have as a team. Storm, coming to you first.
So I'm Storm. I'm the mid laner for New Origins Phoenix. I've been playing in LXC now. This will be my second split, not counting the draft league. This season, I'd say the goal is to kind of differentiate myself. Last season playing top lane, and now this season switching to mid. And just looking forward to having a productive season.
Very nice.
My name's Righteous. I coach for Rivals and then do some content here for LXC. Happily retired. Don't play. Don't ask me to. My goal, I guess, would be to just help Rivals, their players kind of learn the ins and outs of more like the macro side of competitive, and then just come up with some banger drafts, keep things spicy.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Talroma. I am the coach for Jolly JR Black Pearl. This is this is the first time most of our players have played in a league. So we're just trying to get everybody's feet wet, getting a lot of exposure, a lot of experience. Yeah, haven't played in a little while. Play every now and again, mostly with friends, but we're out here.
Great, great. You got some new players. That's awesome.
Hi, I'm Abu Bubble. You can call me Bubble. I'm the mid laner for Contingent Purple. It's my first time playing on a league, so I'm kind of like anxious, but it's fine. And I think my personal goal is just to be like the best mid laner of the league.
That's a great
Good
goal.
goal.
I think,
There you
yeah,
go.
aim high, right? That's
Mhm.
fantastic. And it's really cool to hear that you're a new player as well, Bubble. Welcome. Welcome to the
Amazing.
league.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it, guys. So our first league that we are going to be discussing is the Arbiter League. So we've got a couple of representatives, including you, Bubble, and Talroma, to discuss this one. Looks like our featured matchup from last week that we're going to be starting off with is Jolly Rogers Black Pearl there versus TD Chrono Break. I was just looking at the win screens a moment ago, and it looks like that game 2 in particular was
Yeah,
quite a banger.
that was a very brutal one. We were slugging it out until it got away from us.
It did, yeah. Where did it all go wrong, Talroma?
Um, we kind of got a little over eager. We got to the Nexus and we're just like, let's throw, let's do it. And yeah, there's just a lot of over eagerness. Like I said, a lot of the players are new to this type of environment. So we got so close, and then they're like, "Oh, we can totally just kill them." No, we ended up not. We were still in the game, and then just I think nerves played a lot of role. Playing the stream game, new to leagues, so it was just a little out of positioning, a little over eagerness.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I've noticed a phenomenon in solo queue where it feels like after your team gets Baron, that's like almost the most dangerous point in the game because it feels like everybody just kind
Definitely.
of stops playing how they're supposed to. You know what I mean? So yeah, those definitely moments. It can be tough to stay disciplined, right? But just hearing from you already, how the focus is really going to be kind of growth over the course of the season and
Yeah.
getting people more comfortable in the league. So absolutely fine. I want to get the perspective from you, Bubble. Have you played against either of these teams yet, JR Black Pearl or TD Chrono Break?
Yeah, I played against Jolly Rangers. I
Yeah.
think we
I
won.
see that was
I
that you,
think one is
James?
an understatement.
So what were you, if you were going to predict, the result of this past week's matchup, like, would you have predicted TD Chrono Break to win probably, given the fact that you had such a strong showing against Black Pearl,
Honestly, I don't know because I never seen TD Chrono Break
Okay,
play. And I think like Jolly Rangers are a great team. Um, so I don't know. Like I
fair
couldn't
enough.
like
Yeah.
I could like predict nothing.
Yeah.
Well, just take a quick little look at the drafts here. We shouldn't spend too long on just this first featured matchup, but I guess hearing from you, Talroma, I assume as the coach, you have a big hand in the draft, right?
Yeah. Big draft, big hand in the draft for sure.
Obviously, you don't want to be sharing too many secrets about draft priorities or things like this, but how did the draft play out for you in these games? Did you feel like you were pretty happy with what you were able to get, or what were your
Yeah,
thoughts on it?
overall, I think the draft kind of ended up going as planned. The lanes may not have gone as planned, but I think overall, the only real surprise that I got was them letting us have Seraphine game 2. Sapphire Gem has been doing just a clinic on that champion in solo queue. I think she's like at like a 70% win rate with like 30 games. Just on Seraphine, so she's been killing it. So I was really surprised, and one of the clips was a really good ultimate to kind of take hold of the game that we sadly lost hold of.
Oh, maybe we could take a look at that now. Yeah,
Ends up
all
tagging
the way
every
into the
single
back
one of
line
them.
there. Yeah.
Ooh.
If only the Seraphine ultimate there had been lined up a little bit more with the bullet time, that would have
Yeah.
been a team fight
Yeah.
winner for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess. Go ahead.
the rest of that clip does actually end up us cleaning up pretty good, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
the over eagerness at the Nexus ends up costing us.
Right. Anybody else have any thoughts on this matchup? Storm, Righteous. Do you have any thing you wanted to add about this?
I mean, I have a question. I mean, I'm coaching rivals, right? How hard is it for you to like align both like your goals for the team as well as like meeting them where they're at? You know, you said you're full of new players and
Mm.
not a lot of comp experience. Like, how much effort is pushed towards, all right, let's learn new champions, like let's make these comps, let's do these things, or how much of it is kind of meeting them where they're at and then trying to win games from there?
It's definitely a lot of meeting them where they're at, kind of getting that base level, kind of ticking that up a little bit. Seeing a big thing was whenever I first came into the team. Of course, I got all like the tier list from the players and whatnot, and just kind of taking that top tier, working from there, and then actually putting eyes on it. Because in my experience, players have an inflated perception of how good they are on certain champions.
Yeah.
So like especially top laners on Rumble. So yeah, it's just mostly just kind of taking where they think they're at, having hands-on experience watching them play, and then just kind of going from there. Take it very slow, introduce them macro ideas that they may have never even heard of before, just because solo Q brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and like I said, like a lot of these players, this is the IBSG league. So the average elo on the team is silver, so like mid silver. So I am showing them a lot of things that they've never really seen before, and I have seen already a lot of improvement from these players in solo queue and in a 5v5 environment. So I'm definitely proud of what I've seen.
Cool.
Very nice, very nice. Storm, did you have anything you wanted to add about this matchup, or did you have anything you wanted to mention about the other matchup that was played last week in Arbor? That was Tactical Freeze versus TD Harmony.
So looking at this matchup between Jolly Rogers and TD Break, I like unironically Jolly Rogers' game 1 draft way more than I ever like game 2. Just because I feel like in game 2, you guys kind of hit that wall of this comp does kind of just stop doing damage. Luckily, you guys are definitely probably pretty ahead early game that you could kind of just steamroll it. Just because Ashe is going to fall off a cliff, Lyssandra's going to also be an issue just because she can stall out these fights for Jinx. And that's kind of what it looks like happened on top of game 1, just topside.
Oh, you're looking at the week 1 game.
Yeah. Or am I?
Okay. Yeah, that was against Oh, okay. I see the game you're looking at now. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Game 1 with
Hmm. Yeah,
So
versus
in this
Lysandra.
game, in game 1, you've got a really good front line, really good engage, decent damage between 2 true carries and the Tristana and Xerath, and then a bruiser and Wukong. It just is unfortunate topsides as far back as they are. And then game 2, you guys stick it out. I mean, one more ult from either team or one more better decision around Nexus,
Hmm.
and I mean that series completely flips on its head.
Yeah, for sure.
But
It's
for the
just
most
literally
part,
one play.
like looking at all the leagues, I think Arbiter, unironically, has to be one of my favorites to watch because like if there's a scouting grounds for the other leagues, like it's unironically Arbiter. I feel like that's the hard issue of like making Arbiter rosters is if you're going to make a true Arbiter roster, and me and a friend over in New Origins were talking about this the other day, that making a true good Arbiter roster is essentially making a good Sentinel roster. Because once these players learn how to properly play macro, how to properly play mid game, like you're going to outrank Arbiter. It's just kind
Hmm.
of like the natural course. Because a lot of the things that, especially playing in comp, that's going to help you learn and grow as a solo queue player, will happen in comp, especially if you're in lower ranks.
Hmm. No, I
Pretty
agree
based,
completely.
yeah. Like being a fan of an amateur league. I appreciate that, Storm. Pretty base take there. Um, so let's take a quick look ahead. Looks like for JR Black Pearl Talroma, you're gonna have the week off next week. You do have your
Yep.
bye coming up here in week number 3. But Bubble, you're gonna have a matchup coming up against Tactical Freeze. That's coming up for you. Tactical
Yep.
Freeze, it looks like, has been struggling quite a bit. It seems like they're yet to pick up a single win. So I imagine you're probably feeling pretty confident heading into that one, right, Bubble?
Honestly, I'm a little bit scared.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
uh, I don't know because I know I want to perform, but like I don't have to let my stress like get over me. But like obviously I'm gonna try my best to like as a team win, and I'm sure it's gonna be okay. I'm confident.
You're confident, but not overconfident.
No, and I'm
Okay.
stressed too. So
I'm sure it'll be fine. It's the most important thing is that you're having fun, right? So
yeah.
everybody always has fun playing League of Legends, obviously.
I'm not sure about that one though.
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to touch on for the Arbiter League? I think we should probably move on to Sentinel at this point. That sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Works for
right,
me.
cool. Well, let's see here. So our featured matchup from Sentinel last week looks like we're gonna be taking a look at Rivals versus Hydro Pump Blacktip. So that was. Let me see if I pull up the win screen here for that. Looks like that was Rivals taking it 2-1 in the end. And our representative for Rivals that we have in the call, you Righteous. What's your take on this matchup?
Rivals isn't a game one team. They're games 2 and 3. I think something that going off of like what Storm was saying, right? Like a lot of these players, as they get better and like in terms of micro and macro, they're going to rank up and kind of climb throughout not only the solo queue ranks but the amateur ranks as well. Part of that is like it's pretty easy to identify for some of these teams like the win conditions of said teams. So going into the matchup, looking at Black Tip, right, like we had a pretty good respect for what Key was able to do in week one. Really the whole team, but really Key specifically does a lot for them. And so we kind of wanted to key in on that, pun intended, about how we can slow down their AD carry, which I felt like we did a good job despite less than stellar draft in game one. And then games 2 and 3, we just kind of built upon that, found some better avenues, better ways to attack them in drafts, and got that 2-1 victory. Game 2 was close until I think it was a team fight at one of the dragons, and then game 3 they kind of just picked full scaling and it kind of rolled over and died, which was unfortunate to see for them, but we were happy about it.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
dang. Looks like in that second game, Bixis was had 14 kills on the Syndra, but it wasn't
Hmm.
enough to take you guys down. So you mentioned that you actually weren't very happy with the draft in game one. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Righteous? What do you regret about that game one draft?
So part of it was I was trying to stream the game as well in like a professional setting. So I was trying to get all that done while I was
Mm.
drafting. Had my team convince me to pick an all melee comp into Zeri Morgana, which didn't go very well. I will say the bot lane performed pretty admirably despite not the best of drafts. But once we got into the mid and late game, it was really hard to both shut down the Zeri, which we were doing really well. We were chain CCing her. She wasn't really getting any damage off. But then after that, we didn't have any tools to win the rest of the team
Mm.
fights. Um, it was a learning experience for everybody, but it was good.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to really quick get your opinion, Talroma, as a fellow coach. Did you have any thoughts on what Righteous was talking about there? Anything you wanted to respond to or add to or comment on?
I definitely feel the getting roped in by your team on certain
Mhm.
picks. We did an exact same thing with a Gragas pick, so I definitely understand the moment. And then you just okay, all right, guys, never happening again. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel you on that end.
Mm-hmm. And I guess Storm, anything you wanted to add about this one? What was interesting about this matchup for you?
So, I've got a little bit of history with Rivals. just from an outside league, and correct me if I'm wrong. Your mid laner was the AD carry before, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the long story short is he originally was a mid lane mid and then joined
Mhm.
Rivals, role swapped to AD, and then this season they wanted to swap back, so we made that
Gotcha.
happen. Yeah.
So,
Interesting,
like, as their
interesting.
coach, how would you say that's I don't want to say affected, but how's that transition been, especially after just playing a roster where him and Barb were playing and laning together, and now we're kind of swapping back and forth? Because I thought he played extremely well, especially as AD carry in the league when we played.
Yeah, no, Sailor's a really good player. AD carry or mid. I think
Mm.
for him, because we also lost eyesight. He had some like IRL obligations, can't play as much. So we have a new jungler. I think for Salo, he wanted to have a bigger impact earlier on in these games, which he felt
Mhm.
like he could do through mid. Which has been the case. His laning's been really good. Being able to pair up with Rev in the jungle when we're doing things right, you can definitely feel that impact. There's always some growing pains with people role swapping around, but for the most part, like I would say it's his natural role. So
Mm.
I mean, we'll take we'll take the learning experiences when they come up, but it's been good to us so far.
Very nice, very nice. Bubble, I wanted to get your take really quickly here as a mid laner yourself. I guess why are you a mid laner? What do you feel like are the greatest strengths of the role? Like, do you can you relate to what Righteous was just saying about like having an impact on the
Mm.
map? And like, have you ever experimented with role swapping? Have you ever tried any other roles, anything like that?
I mean, in solo queue, I used to play more ADC or support.
Okay.
I don't know why. I like ADC a lot. I know I'm not like I'm not good at it, but like I like playing those champs, being a range champ, and I think as a mid laner, I think my role is kind of important and I have a big impact of a game. So sometimes I just prefer to like play support, like ADC, just to like relax and just. But yeah, I agree that sometimes I kind of want to like swap, but I know I'm a good mid laner. I know I can improve as a mid laner, so
Mm.
I'm just gonna stay mid laner and improve as a mid. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's nice to, experiment a little bit with the other roles just so you have like a,
Yeah.
a more well-rounded understanding of the game, I think. So maybe
But
that's a
I've been
common.
told like, oh, you should play mid and your champs on your solo queue. But like, I get it, but like, I like to sometimes just play another role just to like balance the game. Just
Absolutely, absolutely. Keeps
Keep things
things interesting,
fresh.
keep things fresh. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
makes a lot of
Oh.
sense. Let's really quickly before we move on from the Sentinel League here, let's take a quick look at Righteous's upcoming matchup. Looks like you are going to be going up against Braum Lives Matter next week. That's
Hmm.
the cross sector matchup that you've got coming up here. What are your thoughts heading into that one, Righteous?
Yeah, they're a really good team. They're undefeated for a reason. We think Sector 2 is probably the weaker division, so we'll actually see. This will be a good test to see where Braum Lives Matter stacks up. We're pretty confident heading into it. Drakenrich does a lot for that team in the mid lane. Even in the games that they've lost, he's performed really well. So we'll see. I'm excited for the mid lane matchup that you know we've got going on for that series.
Wait, that's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
coach team.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add about this matchup then, Bubble? Any interesting info for us?
I can. I don't want to talk about this, but like,
Well, you don't have to.
You can leak some
I wish my
shots.
coach, I wish my coach win. But like, no.
Oh, cheering against Righteous. Oh
All
man,
right.
I bet his
Ooh.
feelings
That's
are
crazy.
feelings are hurt.
Crazy.
All right. Anybody else? Did anybody want to touch on any of the other matchups that were played last week in Sentinel? Anybody else? Anything else to add here?
I I did have one. Um, so OSGA is a team. I don't know if they're like Jolly Rogers and Arbiter, but it seems like they're newer players. They're at least players that I haven't seen before. They put up a good fight against some old heads in TFF. They're on that streamed game. Um, I'm I'm hopeful they put it together. Um, but we'll have to see. It's interesting because coming into this league, part of what I like to do is kind of like figure out the power levels of everybody coming in, seeing like where
Yeah.
they're at, where I expect them to be. OSGA was kind of like middle of the pack, but they just haven't really put it together. I thought they were going to pull out the upset against TFF. We were watching those games. They went down to like, a 20-minute fight, 25-minute fight, 30-minute fight, and then it was just over. So, Sentinels quickly becoming really hard to separate the good from the bad because I think it's done a pretty good job of making sure that these teams are pretty even across the board. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, and it's still pretty early on in the season as well, right? So we've got lots to learn about all of these teams still. So that'll definitely, obviously, be fun to track as we move forward. But guys, I think we should probably move on now to our next league. Is of course going to be the Crusader League that we're going to be taking a look at. Featured matchup from last week: Bloom Gaming Lotus versus OTL Prometheus, and that was a 2-1 victory for Bloom Gaming. And our Crusader representative in the call. Oh, we don't have a Crusader. Oh, we do. Storm.
Oh, we do.
We sure do. Storm, talk to us about this battle that we saw last week.
So I'm a little biased here. Obviously,
Mhm.
Jenka is an old teammate of mine. Esmia, another friend. Mike and Soldier Man, don't know you, but you're cool, I guess. Hang out with the boys. But I mean, they took this to a pretty lengthy series from what I saw. I think there's some questionable build paths. I don't know a world we build Heartsteel on a Mumu, but
That's a bit
that
weird,
was a
yeah.
choice. It was a choice.
Spicy.
But I will say I think we saw a lot out of this team, out of both of them. Unironically, Mercy from Bloom. We play them next week, and I swear on my life, if I get one more DM about Kaisa mid, I'm gonna lose it. But no, looking at all three of these games, it looks like both teams got exactly what they want. Mercy's either playing some kind of enabler champ or an artillery champ like the Kaisa. Jenka's getting things like his Ari that he was super proficient on last year. Smolder in game 2 that throughout most of Draft League, absolutely no one let him touch that champion. The fact they lost that game, I guess Kaisa mid's broken. I don't know. Um,
Maybe,
and then
maybe.
It is actually. It is.
Oh,
game 3,
what you know.
I don't know. I don't know if people just were tired by game 3 and just got eepy. I don't know. But get Bloom game 3 instrument is 12-0-7 on Jax
Wow, yeah.
and Urgot. Brother, buy some
That
steel
is
caps
pretty
and pray.
wild.
I don't know.
Oh, that's so interesting though. It looks like the Urgot actually did more damage. How is that even possible? Right? Am I
Kneecap.
crazy?
What?
Shotgun knees.
I
Yeah,
guess,
just
yeah.
AoE, I guess.
Yeah. AoE Jax playing for split.
Oh, fair
But
enough, fair enough.
I think this Outlaws team, I know they're making a couple roster adjustments. I believe Mike's moving to jungle and then they're bringing another player in. So I don't want to write this team off yet. I think they've got a really good upside. Even in this game 3 game 3 Squigs is 60k damage almost on
Dang,
this Ziggs
yeah.
pick. Brother was the definition of refusing to lose the series. But sadly, there was a bit too much of wallet slapping towards the end of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Let's maybe take or did anybody else have any thoughts on this matchup? Anything else you wanted to comment on for our featured matchup from last week? Righteous, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Talroma, you're good?
All good here.
Bubble, anything about the mid laners? Anything about their performances you wanted to comment on?
No.
Okay. Let's take a look at the upcoming matchup now for Storm then. Or yeah, so you're briefly mentioned earlier on, Storm. You're going to be going up against, it looks like
Bloom.
Bloom Gaming.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, going up against Bloom. So what are your thoughts heading into that one?
I'm pretty excited for it. Unironically, these cross division matchups / rivals week that we had was one of my pitches to staff last year because we kind of hit that weird point where we hit playoffs and no one from Sector 2 had played anyone from Sector 1, and then a certain sector may have just kind of steamrolled. So it was kind of fun. Whereas I think in this layout, it gives us a glimpse at what the other side's got going on.
Mm.
But looking at Bloom, I mean, their roster's solid. Even their lower ranked players, like I want to say Mercy's one of the lower ones,
Mm-hmm.
and even he's contributing in these games. Like I know Janka very well. I played an entire season with him. We're pretty good friends. I saw 07 Yone, and I went, "Don't ever say I taught you that champion." But
Yes.
I think it'll be a good season. A good series to watch if anyone wants to come spectate it.
Of course, of course.
I'm
That should be our
interested to
stream there.
see how Instrument and Zerv go off against each other. Zerv's got a bit less of a stereotypical champ pool, as we saw from last week, where he just randomly went, I think Vladimir looks good here. And I 100% went in my brain, for the love of God, please don't play Vladimir. But he solo killed Set like 4 times in lane, so
There you
I
go.
I will not doubt anymore.
Hard to argue with that. So interesting that both you and Righteous have that cross sector matchup coming up. You know, Righteous was mentioning earlier on he felt like that the Sector 2 in the Sentinel League was the weaker sector. Do you have any kind of feeling like that, Storm? Do you feel like one sector is significantly stronger than the other, or do you have any kind of expectation like that? Or
So honestly, I feel like Sector 2 is a little weaker than Sector 1, but I want to say they're unironically like pretty close in comparison. I think each division probably has a top 1 or 2 teams that are definitely like the teams to beat. But I want to say both divisions, like high-end teams, are really close. Obviously, I've got the insight into New Origin's Goon Squad. They're a sister team. I know everybody on the roster. We all kind of kick it, play in houses. They're probably the team we scrimmed the most, so it's pretty easy for us to kind of judge other people's production versus theirs. Just got me a little spooked about Bloom. That Kaisa mid pick even works into them. But I think this is probably the most balanced Crusader's been since I've been here.
Okay. Well, we love a nice close battle. That should be very exciting to track as well. Anybody else? Any final remarks on Crusader League before we move on? Sounds like we're good. Okay, moving on to the Warden League.
Oh yeah, this is our PSA. If you are 5 levels down on a mid laner, barrier will not save you.
Resi, divert your eyes.
Hit tab. I don't know what to tell you.
Gameplay. Very nice, very nice, very nice. The old outplay button. All right. So moving on now to Warden League. Looks like our featured matchup from last week was the Akuma Scimitars against Team Death Knights Blue. And we do not have a representative here from Warden. That is the league that we are missing, yes?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Akuma did pick up the 2-1 victory, which they did kind of need. They were 0-2 against New Origin in week number 1. So definitely really big for Akuma that they were able to pick up that victory. And yeah, let's take a look at the win screens here. Anybody have any initial thoughts or first impressions on what happened here?
Mm-mm. I think
Talroma, you've been pretty quiet.
Team Death Knights is a newer team, right? From what I gathered, I think Soulkeeper and Vish were telling us, and like the whole preseason thing that they're newer. I don't know if they're brand new to comp. I would imagine not playing in Warden, but maybe just 5 new players trying to put it all together, which could be hard. They're going against some what I call old heads like Worm Jones, who have been around the leagues for a while. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's tough because when you get to Warden, you're getting to players that really know what they're supposed to be doing, and then it just comes down to like actual team fight or like macro execution. So when you're a new team, if you're five just randos put together, it's gonna be hard to do that.
Yeah, for
I
sure,
think
for sure.
the craziest thing from these, actually, unironically, one, a lot of times in these series, like you see game times are usually anywhere from probably 34 to 36 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Game one's 44-minute banger, game two's another 39-minute
Mm-hmm.
banger, and then finally by game three, they figure out the sauce, and somehow the Smolder game is the shortest game of all
True.
of them,
Because
which
they had Yasuo bot, but that's okay.
seems illegal. You know, it
Ooh, yeah,
happens.
the Team Death Knight's blue composition in that game three, I definitely find a little bit questionable. I guess that's fearless though, right?
Yeah.
To
I don't think there's any
Warden is
fearless
not
in.
fearless.
oh, we're
Yeah.
not fearless. I cast too many different leagues. It's hard to get them
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
them straight. But yeah, I don't know about that TDK game three draft. Don't love that one. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, this draft unironically isn't that bad as long as Senna's a knockup option instead of Senna. Because, like,
hmm.
this team wants to Deathball just fight you in Senna Shield or Seraphine Shield on repeat, and it would be really good at it. But the issue is Yasuo has no way in other than Zac Engage, and if Zac Engage whiffs,
Or
or
maybe like Jace, but
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Also,
and
Riot, please remove
it,
Tank Jace. I'm tired of seeing it.
Yeah,
True.
they're trying.
it's I think it's just hard to play into. I think Yasuo bot's hard to pilot, and it's especially hard to pilot when
Yeah.
you go into a Galio mid that's really
Mhm.
covering for that Smolder. Like trying to get on top of a Smolder that has Galio and Rakan is always
Yeah.
gonna be tough. So it was kind of, in my eyes, a little bit of a draft gap. But regardless, I think to your point, these like long games means that like TDK knows how to play and they know how to like scrap and claw and really make it tough to close out games, but they just haven't put it together yet. And I think they have a really tough matchup next week, so they might go 3 or here early. Um,
Looks
but
like Dorado Gaming they've got coming up next week.
yeah, so it's just tough when you're a newer team or org and you're going against some of these teams that have been around what seems like forever. It's gonna be tough to put it all together.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's obviously still they have some time. Still, as we said earlier, relatively early on in the season. So we'll see if they're going to be able to build up that synergy and get to that point where they can compete with some of these rosters that have been together for a little bit longer, that have been around for a little bit longer. Uh, Talroma, did you have anything you wanted to add to our draft conversation and your professional coaching opinion? Did
Uh,
you have want to weigh in?
I definitely agree with the comment on if the Sin is a knockup option. Not really understanding the Yasuo Senna lane with the Seraphine mid. We're just hoping for the Zac knockup. Something like Gragas would be pretty good versus the Galio, trying to save. Just knock up the Smolder into the team. It just gets instant gibbed. But
Yeah,
besides
makes
that,
sense. Makes sense.
I do like Seraphine. Just pretty much anywhere you can stick her. I think the champion offers just way too much, especially in Arbiter League and like in that elo. Just the champion's just completely obnoxious and does everything you don't want it to see doing.
Bubble, thoughts on Seraphine?
mm,
Seraphine mid enjoyer.
no, I don't really like
Okay.
Seraphine. I think she's very weak, but like I think she's, I don't know, people don't like to see her like support or ADC, but like I don't know, mid, I don't, she has a good wave clear and she can like poke or have some good engage with R, but like I don't know, she's really squishy and I like to play more aggressive, so
Oh yeah, she's definitely not for the aggressive playstyle, especially in mid
yeah.
lane.
I'm not gonna
Makes
lie.
sense. Makes
I would
sense.
100% view Seraphine as a crutch pick. It
I agree.
very much seems like you're just picking this champ because one of two things: you don't think you can early lane against somebody, or they drafted something that has lane prio to the point where you say, hey, I'm just going to become this immovable thing, and if you don't figure out how to kill it before 15 minutes, that it kind of makes team fighting at 20 minutes kind of impossible, if it's even. Because at the end of the day, you're fighting through empowered Seraphine shields, you're fighting through roots, you're fighting through a massive CC stun, you're fighting through random poke damage that covers almost any entryway in like a middle part of the game. So I think it's definitely an underutilized flex pick
Mhm.
due to the fact it can play 3 roles right now.
Yeah.
But I think the later we go in the season, we might see a bit more of it, depending if people decide they want to ego take it or not.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with the Seraphine pick is it could be played 3 roles relatively comfortably.
That was we saw that clip from your play earlier on the Seraphine, right, Talroma?
Yeah,
Was that your mid laner or your support? I don't
that was my
recall.
support.
Okay, that was the support Seraphine. Yeah, interesting stuff. Everybody's opinions on that. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add about Warden League? Anything else they wanted to comment on from the matches last week or looking ahead? Unfortunately, we don't have a representative again for this league, so
I
nobody
got a
in
question for
particular.
you, crew.
Oh,
How'd you like casting it? That was your first LXC
Yeah.
cast with Warden League.
it was a great time. Yeah, we got cast. That was Dorado Gaming Shy versus New Origin Direction that we cast together. That was a great time for sure. Maybe we have. Can I find a post game screen or win screens for that? Yeah, that's in the Warden section, right?
Yes, sir.
That was a kind
Feels
of a
like
banger of a series. So,
It
how
was, wasn't it?
involved Storm are you in New Origin? Is that your project, or are you just on a team?
So all of our teams are actually really close for the most part. Obviously, I'm really good friends with Valka, and Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Andromeda comes around for in-houses a bit, so like we know each other, but I wouldn't say we're like super close.
Mm-hmm.
Cuddle Bear and Rescued kind of do their own thing most times.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely been around a lot of them, and I think their team has a lot of upside. I think right now they're still trying to figure out their identity of who needs to be on what in draft. Um, like especially their game 2 draft. In a nutshell, it doesn't look awful because you kind of have this weird stand your ground and fight comp with Kindred MF, but this team just heavily lacks engage. Like your only engage option is Galio throwing himself into the fight, and then hopefully getting Renata ult over the top. But in doing that, you have no Galio ult value. Your best Galio ult target is going to be Valk flash queuing into a backline as Garen. And now you're playing off you can only really effectively use Galio ult every 6 minutes. So I think once this team gets their draft a little bit more squared away with what roles people need to be on, I think we're going to see them heavily improve some of these games.
Yeah, I remember. It was Alternative had played the Galio in game number 1, so it definitely felt to us, I think, right, Righteous, like New Origin, we're almost kind of just like picking away the Galio just to deny it, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe didn't necessarily have as clear of a plan of what to do with the pick. And then also in that game, we were able to talk to Cherry afterwards. We did a little bit of an interview, and she was talking about how she feels like they probably shouldn't have allowed her to play the Gwen jungle. So that was, I guess, something that definitely was a factor as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me is like, so Dorado obviously won Warden last last year under a different, I think it was Contingent.
Contingent.
Um so I mean, they said they didn't really practice or anything during the off season, and they just kind of did this on a whim, like run it back, see how it goes. But you're gonna have like some synergy from just playing together for that long previously. I don't know about New Origin, how long they've been playing together as five, but it seemed to me the biggest issue was like they were like close but not quite on a lot of these team fight
Yeah.
calls, or a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these like high pressure situations where it seemed like Andromeda wanted to do one thing, and then Cuddle or Forest wanted to do something else, and so it was just a little bit scattered. And so my biggest takeaway is like if they can put
Yeah.
together the comms, regardless of draft, obviously you want to have a good draft, but if you put together the comms, they'll definitely, like you said, improve pretty drastically. I think pretty quickly, and they already have a win, right? So it's coming off a loss always feels bad, but it'd be feeling worse if you were 0-2, but they're 1-1. They're right in the thick of it, so I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, it looks like a New Origins upcoming matchup can be against a definitely not lit next week. Do we know much about that team? Anybody?
So I'm used to play
So
with DNL.
yeah. So I have a little bit of insight into DNL. I played on one of their meta shift rosters. It's ironically in the same league where me and Righteous played against each other.
Mhm.
Um, so I know a couple of these names, but none of them played with us. But Gone, I'm hoping Gone shows a lot of improvement. I think he's a pretty good player overall. I can't say I've seen him mid. He filled jungle for us, and it was unfortunate just the finals that he had some real life things happen and he had to not be there.
Mm.
Um, but I've got
Does that seem like a beatable opponent for New Origin? What do you think? You have a prediction for that one?
I think if they go in with the right mindset and the right plans of how to deal with this team, it's 100% doable. From watching Definitely Not Lit play, this very much seems like it's the Bucky show. Buckeyes can't get like a 5-kill lead and then start choking people out around the map with it.
Mm.
I think if that can't happen, I feel like this team really loses sight of what needs how to play the game.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun to see those results next week as we do get to see that come in. Anybody else have any final thoughts on Warden League? Any other matchups we wanted to touch on, or all good? All right. Let's move on now to community questions. Looks like we got a couple of these community questions here. This is from Zelda Guy Zero. Who are the underdogs and overrated of a Crusader League? What do you reckon, Storm?
Underdogs.
Underdogs and overrated.
So it's interesting. The question sounds like who's overrated and then who's like sneakily good, but does that mean they're underrated? I don't know.
Ah.
We'll say underrated for underdogs. Who's underrated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
So probably the most underrated team that I think has a lot of like, especially postseason possibilities here is going to be Outlaws. I think once they fix drafts and Janka starts playing his actual champ pool, I think that alone will propel this team forward. Um, especially if they can get a pretty standard new roles, whatever their role flip they're doing is. I know they're trying to bring in a new top laner, but I don't know who it is yet. Um, and overrated,
You gotta
it's
choose your
clown.
words carefully.
It's clown. It's clown gaming, bro. This team went
Oh.
from last season champions to getting kind of 2-0 blasted. Like everyone else is kind of where I'm expecting them to be. Another team I don't want to say I'm worried about, but I've scrimmed them on a different roster than my LXC roster is PSN. I know a lot of names from this between Supporto, Loco, and Clay, and those are all solid players. Obviously, Chinese Spy's been around a while. Is a
Forever.
pretty competent mid laner.
Mm.
You could have told me this Fresh Burger person wasn't a human. I don't know. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever seen his name outside of Scrim.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Clown had a
I
lot
think
of
there's a really big gap in Crusader between
Mm.
like 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, and then 3 to the rest is pretty close. At least that's the way it looks to me.
Clown had a bunch of roster turnover, right? Like, is it just one or two from last year or last season? Because
For
wasn't
who?
like a for Clown Gaming? Wasn't it like a Bound and a bunch of those guys that were on there?
So the only returning members from that clown roster is Resilient Wookie.
Mm-hmm.
That's an entire new topside and jungle and an entirely new support.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe unknown kids like Loki the goat, and I don't know it, but he did not play in our series. I don't know why, if he had IRL stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but just from playing that game, I don't feel like just support is saving you. But you know, I like to be stood corrected. I like to see people on the come up. It's the redemption arc.
I think Clown Gaming Blood Moon actually played in last season of Blue Otter Emerald. I was casting that league, and
Mm-hmm.
they did unfortunately have a pretty rough showing over there. So Wookie's a friend of mine though, so I'm definitely going to tell him that he's overrated next time I talk to him. Then that'll be fun.
Let him
Righteous, do
know.
you have anything you wanted to add? Any thoughts on this community question? Any teams that you wanted to shout out in Crusader as being either underrated or overrated?
So, I mean, I like the question. I like the sectors because not every sector one team will ever play sector two. Like they'll have some cross
Yeah.
divisions, like
Yeah.
the rival week, but it's really only two instances where you get to see those teams take on another team from the sector. And so it's always like a fun what if game. Is like, I'm looking at sector two right now and sector one. I think sector two is probably like skill level top to bottom a lot closer than sector one. I think sector one has the higher highs and maybe the lower lows in terms of like overall play from these teams. But then you get into the what if game of like, okay, so like, Syndicate Reds is 2-0, but if you put them in sector one, how well would they be doing? Even with Cloud Gaming's roster changes, and you look at like Phoenix, Panthers, Interbots, like all really solid teams. So you just like you always play this what if game of like, are they really overrated, or are they really underrated, or are they just kind of unlucky that they got put in a better sector? So it's always tough to tell.
Yeah. Could be a little bit of mix of a few of those things, right? Theoretically. So we'll see as things progress and those standings start to get a little bit more defined. Talroma, any thoughts on Crusader, underrated and overrated teams?
No, not particularly.
Not really, a ton of familiarity or.
Yeah. I could have said this earlier. I am relatively new to the scene. I do more collegiate things.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Yeah,
is a
fair.
lot of newer names.
Yeah, no worries. Bubble, do you have much familiarity with any of these Crusader teams? Do you feel like anybody is underrated or overrated?
I mean, I'm new in league, so I don't know
Right.
those teams. So I don't want to say something bad.
What about your own league? Do you have any thoughts on your own league? Anybody as being overrated or underrated?
Mm.
That's a good question because I got some I got some thoughts.
Well, we'll come
Tough.
back over to you next then, Righteous.
Oh, right now for
Yeah, sure.
Sentinel.
Come on, Shouty.
Sure.
Um, I'm a big like stats guy, and I think stats don't tell the whole picture, but they also don't lie. I think OTLO over in Sector 2 might be a tad overrated. Um, I think they rely very heavily on their jungler, and their jungler is really good. Don't get me wrong. It's just that um,
Mm.
the way that they're approaching some of these teams, coupled with the fact that like I think they're in the weaker sector overall. Um, I don't know if they would stand up to like the top half of Sector 1. But we'll see. I mean, obviously the season's long, but I think Sector 1's got some really good teams. Taking our like rivals bias out of it, we've scrimmed and played NLE a couple times. Really solid team top to bottom. Plasma Wolves I think has top 3 or 5, anywhere between there in every role. In my opinion, TFF, Efron and those guys have been around a long time. They have plenty of comp experience, and like even Hydro Pump and TD, like these teams, I don't think week to week are just gonna like roll over. I think they're gonna put up a good showing week in week out. So that would be my overrated pick. Would be OTLO for
Yeah.
Sentinel.
That makes
Uh,
sense. It lines up with what you were saying earlier as well about feeling like, the Sector 2 is a little bit weaker.
yeah. But I would also say the underrated team is Roar, which is also Sector 2. I think those are good players. I'm still waiting for them to put it together, and maybe after one more week, I have to give up on them. But like top to bottom, you look at like how those guys are doing individually, they do really well. It's just they don't win games, and
Yeah.
you know,
Is
at the end of the day, you
is
have to win.
yeah, of course, of course. That is a very important piece of the puzzle. Is Doki involved with that Roar
I
team
don't
at all?
know.
Do we
I'm sure.
know?
I'm sure he is at
Okay.
some point, like in
In
somewhere,
some
some shape or
capacity.
fashion.
Okay. But he's not
Doki's
on the Rift?
yeah, he's got his hands in everything. No, he doesn't play, but
Oh,
Okay,
I'm sure
okay.
he's in there year and draft and yelling at them and doing Doki things. But
Of course. We'll come back to I
all
want to
I
come back
know
to
is
you
if I
really
see a
quickly.
double jungle strat, I know who did it.
yeah,
Oh man, yeah, we've seen some things. We've seen some things from Doki over the years for sure. I want to really quickly come back to you, Talroma. If you had any teams you wanted to call out in your own division, or if you had any collegiate teams that you wanted to call out as being underrated or overrated.
Definitely. I'm gonna have to say we're a little underrated. I think we're still getting
Sure,
our stuff
sure. Good
together.
answer.
Match one, we got bodied by a Lux, and we'll never let that happen again. My players have PTSD from it.
Oh.
Uh, and then, yeah, as you saw in our last game, that game two really could have went our way if we just played it a little bit better. So I do have hopes that we're getting things a little tighter, a little neater. And I'm really interested to see how well Chrono Break does. Their jungler likes to just run a clinic. Like the dude's pretty insane in the division, and definitely gonna keep watching their games.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our second and final community. Oh yeah. Good call. Yeah, let's hear from what Bella, you want to respond?
Uh,
Oh
so
right, sorry.
I know my Lux is good. I have like 3 or 4 champs that I'm really comfortable in, and Lux is one of them. Uh, and I think it's a safe pick, a strong pick. And when I saw the Ziggs first game, I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna win. Like, there's just some matchup that I just know, like, I can poke Ziggs, I can like dominate in lane, and I can have the control, like the mid control, so I can roam, I can go for objectives. So yeah, I think Milo's gonna get banned for the
Yeah,
next game.
I can guarantee that next time we play, it is getting banned. Spoiler.
I
Not too
know.
loud.
Talroma's learned his lesson.
We know.
He's a knower now. Um, but yeah, it's pretty funny, pretty funny. But yes, our last community question: which Sector A team versus Sector B team will be a banger of a series in playoffs? That one's from Resilient. So I guess we'll come to you first, Storm. In your own league, in the Crusader League here, what Sector A versus Sector B matchup do you think is going to be really interesting?
So I think I've got like 2 answers here. I think PSN versus Syndicate is going to be a pretty solid matchup. As someone I haven't scrimmed this entire Syndicate team, but I have scrimmed members of it on different rosters to kind of judge where this team's most likely going to be at, as well as the same with PSN. And I think they match up really well mechanic wise. So I think that you're going to see kind of gaps in teams' macro and drafting in that series a lot. And I think it's going to be back and forth. And then the other answer, it's the whole sister team thing. Toot my own horn. But I'm really looking forward to Phoenix versus Goon Squad. I think me and Badger coin flip matchups left and right every other day. Fort 20 and Zerv both play weird things, and Fort's going to end up proxy farming at some point. So I think that series is going to be a lot of fun, and that's one I'm really looking forward to. I think we might end up playing each other's in Rivals Week, depending how the standings will end up after this week. But I think that in playoffs, especially a best of 5, is going to be a banger to get into.
Sounds like that'll be a fun one for sure. No doubt about it. Righteous, what do you think about the Sentinel League? Any Sector A, Sector B matchups that you're anticipating?
Um, Producers are gonna have to remind me who gets in playoffs. I don't. Is it top 4 or top 3? Um, but in terms of like top of the leaderboards for both these sectors, I think
I believe it's top 5.
think I mean I think OTLO just facing either, assuming these standings hold up, right? And OTL goes to the finals or whatever, and they face a Sector 1 team. Um, Elite Choppas, Plasma Wolves, or even us. It'd be interesting to see how they would do with some solo lane pressure. Um, OTLO's solo laners are good, but not great. Oh, so it's top 5. So 4 and 5 have to play each other. So, and then looking at the the bottom of the bracket for Sector 2 and Sector 1, if you had like 4v5 play across match, Veracity versus Blacktip would be a really good matchup. I think Veracity's got a really solid top side, whereas Hydro Pump, like we talked about, is bot lane oriented in terms of how they approach mid to late game team fights. And then I think TFF, no offense, probably wipes the floor with dropping point Hellfire if they end up taking that 5th spot. But right now in Sector 2, it seems like the bottom 2 teams, neither one of them wants to go to playoffs. So you might have
Oh.
a number 5 team that is winless. So we'll see.
Oh man, that would be something. That would be pretty bizarre, honestly. I guess we'll see. Wow, you Sector 2 has got something to prove to you, Righteous.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm not a Sector 2 believer.
You are
I'll stand
not
by
at
that.
all. Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. That'll be interesting. I'm very much looking forward to your cross section matchup against Sector 2. They've got a chip on their shoulder now.
This week. Yeah, that'll be this week.
No, that'll be good. Talroma, what are you thinking in your own division here in Arbiter? I guess there are no sectors in Arbiter, are there?
No, and I don't think they've announced exactly what they're doing for playoffs, just because due to the low count of teams. So we're just kind of waiting to see what the official ruling on that one is and prepare when it comes out.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I guess just general thoughts then, looking forward, looking ahead to playoffs. Who do you expect to be your toughest competition? Assuming that you are going to be, you know, looking at a potential deep run.
I think Purple does have a good chance of doing really well in the league. Just gauging off of the 2 matches that we played versus Chrono Break and versus Purple. Purple definitely gave us way more of a hard time than Break did.
So I hear.
We won't
That's
see
good.
Lux again, though. The Lux will never show her face again.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Come on.
But
It's just Lux. Play Morg. I don't know.
But besides that, I do predict us doing pretty well once we get a little further into the season, a little more games under our belts. Like I said, this is everybody on the team's first league. It's just 5 people kind of scrounged together.
Yeah.
They've never played with each other before either, so.
Well, hopefully, yeah. We'll see if that growth, that development does happen. I'll be looking for that for sure. Bubble, anybody that you're got your eye on? Who are you looking at as maybe some of your toughest competition here for this season?
I'm scared about the TD break, honestly. I heard some good things about them, and that's gonna be a strong like. I'm a bit scared of them, but I think we're doing great as a team. We try to like communicate more, and I'm sure it's gonna be a tough matchup, but we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I guess that's probably going to be your matchup in week 4, right? Because you already had your bye, so
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I have to check.
yeah. Anyways, that's a ways away still. We'll get to that later. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for
One more
everything.
question.
Oh,
One more
we just got
question.
another question. Okay. Mel has been enabled for this upcoming week. Thoughts on Mel? Storm, what do you think about Mel?
Please delete this champion.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like we
totally
just
agree.
spent 3 months of dealing with BS Smolder executes, where we went, this is definitely not a problem, before 200 years of game design said, okay, it's a problem, we'll take it away. And then we went, hey guys, hear me out. What if we gave it to an actual mid laner
Mhm.
at level 1?
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I agree completely.
Pretty gross. Pretty gross.
And I
Right,
hate
just
playing
thoughts on
artillery
Mel?
mages, and I hate that it's good.
it.
That's that mid lane hate. I think.
For
I
real.
mean, so I don't know how many of you watch like the pro scene content that comes out, like pros and the dive, like those podcasts that they do. It's
Mhm.
been like a mixed bag on terms of like how they've viewed Mel in terms of like their solo queue games and like what they've seen. But I will say it's not enabled in competitive for a reason right now. Like none of the pro leagues are able to play it um as directed by the devs. So maybe some changes will come. My guess is that if they
We
think
can
it's so
hope.
broken you can't play it in pro, they'll change it. I thought when she was releasing, the biggest issue I'd have with her is like that reflectability, being able to bounce off pretty much everything that is thrown at her seemed broken. But it comes down to the fact that like you can't even throw abilities at her because she's hitting you from a mile away and doing just so much damage to you. And it's like facing a good Xerath, except Xerath, in my opinion, takes skill, and I don't think Mel really does. Like you could just throw stuff out and it hits you and it does so much damage. So we'll have to see. I would imagine that if any team shows that they've been playing Mel, I don't think it's actually going to see the riff. So it might have like a lot of bans,
Just
but I
fade
don't think
out,
it's going to
yeah.
get picked a lot.
Yeah,
That
I
makes
want to
sense.
say they said that Mel has like the highest win rate on release of any champion in like a good while, like
I think I
across
heard that
every
too, yeah.
elo.
Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild. Bubble, have you experimented with Mel yet? You have any thoughts on Rido's latest creation?
I didn't play her yet, but I play against her in a scrim, and that's disgusting. That's really disgusting. She's like her range is crazy. She does a lot of damage early, mid, and late game, and I don't know. I don't want to play against that in league, but we'll see.
I mean, if you can't beat him, maybe you gotta practice the Mel. Get that up to speed. Give Talroma something else to worry about, right? Maybe that'll open up the Lux for you.
Yeah,
No.
I should play her. Like,
Um, yeah, I think we're all pretty much aligned here. Mel is pretty terrifying and is probably going to get banned a lot. So that'll be fun. And I think that now is going to do it for our community questions. So all that is left now is shoutouts. Storm, coming to you first for shoutouts. Any shoutouts you have? Any words for the stream? Any final thoughts, closing remarks, anything like that?
I just want to say thank you to all the people that tuned in, come watch. Obviously, it's a good, pretty positive community we've kind of been building over in LXC and carrying on to this new format instead of the videos we did last season. I think it's a good change of pace, and I'm looking forward to the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Righteous, you next. Oh, you're muted, Righteous.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was gonna say shout out to Marvel Rivals for making it really easy for me to stay retired from League. No, but seriously, it's been fun to make some content for Sentinel. LXC's got a good thing going, got a good community. It started out a little rough, not gonna lie. I remember the bad season 0 days, but it's turned around. It's become a league that's been really fun. So um, let's keep it going.
Excellent, excellent, very nice. Talroma?
Yeah, again, this is my first time in LXC, and I've definitely enjoyed everything. I like how organized it is. I want to give a shout out to Nicholls State University. That's the collegiate team that I coach. We started off 1-0 on both our teams, so that was a great start to the season. So keep watching out. We play in NECC and ECAC. If anybody follows those collegiate leagues.
Excellent, excellent. Last but not least, Bubble, your shoutouts, please.
I want to shout out my team. I'm really happy to play with them in the league and improve as a team. Uh, those are like good people, and I think gonna go far in the league. And I just want to say thank you to inviting me here and to share my point of view of something. And yes, that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, all of you guys, for being here and spending your evening with us, sharing your insights and your thoughts about the league, what we've seen so far, and expectations for what's to come as well. That's going to do it from us here. Remember, week number 3 kicks off tomorrow night, the usual time, usual place, and make sure everybody, you guys, tune in for that one. For myself here, from everybody at LXC, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.